My world revolved around Oliver. We were friends for 7 years, lovers for 4, and married for 2. A whirlwind romance ignited when we were both just 19. He was everything I'd ever dreamt of: kind, handsome, and financially secure thanks to a tireless work ethic he'd honed since he was 15. My Oliver, a man who reveled in providing for his family, a grounding force against the backdrop of my bustling capital city upbringing, so different from his seaside roots. Our swift marriage, just a month after our first taste of love, wasn't initially met with open arms by his family. They saw me, a city girl, as a trap, despite my innocence and lack of any prior entanglements. The accusation stung, especially considering Oliver's past relationships, a number he downplayed, only admitting to one. Their initial suspicion felt unfounded and hurtful, but thankfully, time and shared experiences eventually melted their reservations, forging a bond of love and trust. The notion of me trapping Oliver was baffling. I, too, possessed a strong work ethic, starting at a hotel reception at 17. We were both driven, both committed to building a life together, and we were happy, profoundly so. These past 4 years of marriage had been a tapestry woven with love and contentment. I delighted in caring for him, anticipating his needs, and sharing a passionate intimacy that left us both blissfully fulfilled. He was my everything, my heart's desire. Our shared domesticity was a source of joy. I found fulfillment in creating a haven for him, tending to the home and anticipating his every desire. Our intimate life was a symphony of mutual pleasure, a testament to the deep connection we shared. He was the sun in my sky, and I wanted for nothing more. But then, a shadow crept into our idyllic world. It started with Doron, a colleague of mine at the hotel. A kind, gentle soul of 32, he was responsible for maintenance and janitorial duties. Let me be unequivocally clear, I harbored no romantic feelings for Doron whatsoever. He was simply a good man weathering a devastating storm. Doron's wife had betrayed him in the cruelest way imaginable. She'd left him, taking their son, only for a paternity test to reveal the heartbreaking truth: the boy wasn't his. The revelation exposed her infidelity and implicated another man, leaving Doron shattered. This man, beloved by all at the hotel, was plunged into a despair so profound it frightened me. His pain resonated deeply within me. He, who had never missed a day of work in 13 years, was suddenly absent, adrift in his grief. My concern for him, both as a friend and a colleague, compelled me to act. I sought him out, engaging him in conversation, insisting on shared lunches with colleagues, anything to draw him back into the light, to remind him of his worth. We'd gather in the break room or find solace in the fresh air and sunshine, hoping to ease his burden. The betrayal had stripped Doron of his sense of masculinity. He was convinced he was undesirable, unworthy of love. I vehemently disagreed. Any woman would be lucky to have him, kind, gentle, a provider, and a loving father, despite the cruel twist of fate that had separated him from his son. More on that later. Weeks of conversations with Doron sparked an idea, a way to help him reclaim his sense of masculinity and, simultaneously, allow me to explore a facet of relationships I'd never experienced outside of my marriage to Oliver. A lingering question in my mind whispered for an answer. I chose a quiet evening after dinner, once the dishes were cleared and we were nestled together, to broach the subject with Oliver. I laid out my thoughts, my suggestion, my solution. His reaction was unexpected, a burst of laughter, a look of disbelief. He thought I was joking. I reassured him that I was deadly serious, explaining my rationale, how I believed this unconventional arrangement could be beneficial for both Doron and myself. I reassured him that Doron posed no threat, emphasizing my utter lack of desire or attraction. Oliver, however, erupted in a storm of emotion, slamming the bedroom door behind him. The pointed omission of a lock spoke volumes. He wanted a demonstration of my love, my devotion. Complying, I shed my clothes and entered the room. His resistance to me is as futile as mine to him. Even after 4 years, this truth remained. I gave him the intimacies he craved, and we drifted to sleep entwined in the familiar comfort of our love and happiness. A day later, I resurrected my proposal. Had he reconsidered, would he offer his blessing again? His refusal was resolute, a stark warning of divorce and permanent severance should I proceed. I acknowledged his position with a simple okay and settled beside him for a movie, offering a treat as the evening progressed. We spent the night intertwined on the couch, the veneer of our love seemingly intact, yet a disquiet hung in the air. Oliver was distant, preoccupied, his attention straying from our shared intimacy and the carefully prepared meals. His hushed phone calls, taken outside or in the spare room, amplified my suspicions. Though tangible evidence remained elusive, days drifted by, culminating in Sunday. After religious services, Oliver was due to embark on his annual 4-day fishing trip with his family, a tradition I'd never questioned, understanding his need for masculine camaraderie. Before he left, I raised my suggestion one last time. Oliver, visibly frustrated, finally conceded, "Emma, you're an adult. I can't control your decisions. If you want to be with another man, I can't stop you." I've made my feelings clear. I showered him with hugs and kisses, thanking him for his understanding. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his face as he climbed into his car and drove away. His parting words, a reminder of his previous warning, echoed in my ears. Throughout the evening, I maintained a steady stream of affectionate messages, reaffirming my love. The following day, I met with Doron over lunch and presented my proposition, utterly blindsided. Doron's initial reaction was a firm refusal. He couldn't involve himself with a married woman. I countered, explaining my husband's reluctant acquiescence and the driving force of my own desire. Doron wrestled with the idea throughout Monday night, sleepy eluding him. By Tuesday, he agreed, stimulating that both my husband and I were truly comfortable, and emphasizing the purely physical nature of the encounter. I assured him my desires for him were non-existent. He was a means to an end, not an object of attraction. That Tuesday night, at Don's cozy home, the encounter took place. Protection was used, intimacy and affection were absent, the interaction reduced to its most basic physical form. Doron, it seemed, was quickly sated. For me, it was the extinguishing of a curiosity, an insignificant act devoid of meaning, a mere checking of a box. That evening, I texted my beloved Oliver, informing him of the uneventful completion of the deed. Doron's self-esteem, I assured him, had been restored, and I had my answer. I reiterated my unwavering devotion, emphasizing that he, Oliver, my love, was the only man for me. Let me be unequivocally clear. This was a purely physical act, protected and devoid of any emotional connection or love, a stark contrast to the intimacy Oliver and I share. My text to Oliver, driven by a premonition of his reaction, went unanswered that night. It felt like a deliberate attempt to distance himself from me, from us. The drive was long and filled with annoying emptiness. When I finally arrived, the sight of him sent a fresh wave of tears down my face. He was different, harder, a stranger cloaked in the familiar form of my husband. He refused to speak to me, his eyes cold and distant. Security was called, and I was escorted away, the sting of humiliation adding another layer to the already unbearable pain. Returning to the hollow shell of my apartment, I felt utterly defeated. The silence was deafening, amplifying the absence of his presence, his laughter, his touch. I spent the weekend in a daze, moving mechanically through the motions of existence, eating from paper plates, sleeping on the too small bed, the stark reality of my situation pressing down on me with suffocating weight. Monday morning brought a new wave of challenges. I had to face my colleagues, their pitying glances a tangible reminder of my shattered life. Work became a refuge, a place to momentarily escape the crushing weight of my heartbreak. I poured myself into my tasks, desperate for distraction. The attorney called later, that week, outlining the terms of the divorce settlement. Oliver was offering a paltry sum, a pittance compared to what we had built together. It was an insult, a final blow delivered with calculated cruelty. I refused to sign. I deserved more, not just financially, but emotionally. I deserved an explanation, an acknowledgement of the love we had shared. Weeks turned into months. The initial shock gave way to a simmering anger, a fierce determination to fight for what was rightfully mine. I found a lawyer, a strong woman who understood the complexities of my situation. She assured me that Oliver's actions were not only heartless, but potentially illegal. There was a battle ahead, but I was ready. I started to rebuild my life, piece by painful piece. I found a roommate, a kind soul, who offered a shoulder to cry on and a much-needed sense of community. I started looking for a new apartment, a place to call my own, free from the ghosts of my past. The legal proceedings were grueling, a constant reminder of the betrayal I had suffered. Oliver remained distant, communicating only through his lawyer. I never heard his voice again, never saw the warmth return to his eyes. The man I loved had vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating stranger. The divorce was finalized a year later. The settlement was far from what I had hoped for, but it was enough to start over. I left the apartment, leaving behind the remnants of my shattered dreams. I drove away without looking back, my heart heavy, but my spirit unbroken. The healing process was slow and arduous, marked by moments of profound sadness and flashes of righteous anger. But slowly, I began to reclaim my life. I focused on my career, my friends, and rediscovering the woman I had lost in the wreckage of my marriage. Looking back, I realized that the encounter with Doron was a catalyst, a spark that ignited the already smoldering embers of discontent within my marriage. It was a mistake, a desperate attempt to fix something that was already broken. But from the ashes of that mistake, I rose stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live a life filled with love, happiness, and unwavering self-worth. Doreen assured Oliver that there was nothing between us and that it was a one-time act of selfless compassion. She even emphasized that she found me unattractive and that the experience was purely physical, devoid of any emotional connection. Despite this, Oliver remained unresponsive. His silence is a heavy weight, crushing me under its relentless pressure. I've started attending therapy sessions, hoping to find a way to cope with this overwhelming grief and confusion. My therapist suggests that Oliver's reaction is disproportionate and perhaps indicative of deeper-seated issues within him or our marriage that I was unaware of. She encourages me to focus on my own healing and self-discovery during this time. I've also been spending more time with my friends and family, their support a lifeline in this turbulent sea of emotions. They listen patiently to my endless retellings of the story, offering words of comfort and encouragement. Their unwavering belief in me helps to bolster my own wavering confidence. I've started taking better care of myself, focusing on healthy eating, exercise, and pursuing hobbies that bring me joy. I'm rediscovering passions I had forgotten, finding solace in the simple act of creating. Slowly, painstakingly, I'm piecing myself back together. I've also been exploring my career options, realizing that I need to establish a stronger sense of financial independence. I've started taking online courses to enhance my skills and broaden my horizons. I'm determined to build a future for myself, regardless of whether Oliver returns. The legal proceedings are still ongoing, but I'm no longer fighting for reconciliation. I'm fighting for closure, for a fair resolution that will allow me to move forward with my life. I'm no longer the naive, trusting woman I was before. This experience has forged me into someone stronger, more resilient, and more aware of my own worth. I still think about Oliver every day. The pain of his absence is a constant ache in my heart. But I'm learning to live with it, to accept that our story may not have the happy ending I once envisioned. I've started dating again, tentatively stepping back into the world of romance. It's daunting, but also exhilarating. I'm learning to trust again, to open my heart to the possibility of finding love again. I no longer blame myself for the demise of my marriage. I realize that my actions, while misguided, were not malicious. I was trying to help, to fix something that I didn't fully understand. My journey is far from over. There are still days filled with sadness and uncertainty. But I'm moving forward, one step at a time, towards a brighter future. A future where I am the author of my own story, a story of resilience, self-discovery, and unwavering self-love. It's a dream that sustains me, a beacon of hope in the darkness. I'm also focusing on finding a stable job and getting back on my feet financially. Life at the hostel ain't ideal, but it's a stepping stone, a temporary measure until I can afford my own place again. I've started volunteering at a local soup kitchen, giving back to the community and finding a sense of purpose beyond my own personal struggles. It's humbling and rewarding, a reminder that there are others facing even greater challenges. I've also reconnected with my faith, finding solace in prayer and the teachings of my religion. It's a source of strength and guidance, helping me to navigate this difficult chapter of my life. I haven't heard from Oliver, but I haven't given up hope. I believe that he'll come around eventually, that he'll realize the depth of my love and the selfless nature of my actions. In the meantime, I'm focusing on becoming the best version of myself, the woman he fell in love with all those years ago. I've started taking classes, learning new skills and expanding my knowledge. I'm challenging myself intellectually and creatively, discovering hidden talents and passions. I'm also working on forgiving myself for the mistakes I've made. I realize that I acted impulsively, driven by a desire to help, but ultimately, my actions led to the destruction of my marriage. It's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I'm learning to let go of the anger and resentment I felt towards Oliver and his family. I realize that their actions were rooted in their own beliefs and values, even if I don't agree with them. Holding on to anger only hurts me, so I'm choosing to release it and move forward. I'm embracing the unknown, the uncertainty of the future. I don't know what lies ahead, but I'm approaching it with a sense of cautious optimism. I'm open to new possibilities, new experiences, and new relationships. I'm learning to love myself again, to appreciate my own strengths and weaknesses. I'm realizing that I am worthy of love and happiness, regardless of my marital status. This journey has been a roller coaster of emotions, filled with heartbreak, anger, confusion, and self-doubt. But it has also been a journey of self-discovery, resilience, and growth. I'm emerging from the ashes of my broken marriage stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live a life filled with purpose, joy, and unwavering self-love. And maybe, just maybe, one day, Oliver will knock on my door and we can start anew. But even if he doesn't, I know that I'll be okay. I have myself, and that's more than enough. I, on the other hand, am Caucasian with light brown hair and blue eyes, and Lisa is Caucasian with blonde hair and green eyes. A seed of doubt began to sprout in my mind, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the joy of the moment. We named our son David. Over the next few days in the hospital, I continued to observe David, the nagging feeling of unease growing stronger. I didn't want to voice my suspicions, not wanting to upset Lisa or create unnecessary drama. We had just welcomed a new life into the world, and I wanted to focus on the positive. Once we returned home, I found myself subtly scrutinizing Lisa's features, searching for any resemblance to David. The more I looked, the more convinced I became that something wasn't right. I started losing sleep, the unanswered questions swirling in my mind. Finally, after weeks of agonizing internal debate, I decided to broach the subject with Lisa. I chose my words carefully, trying to be as gentle and understanding as possible. I explained my observations and my concerns, emphasizing that I loved her and David, but that I needed clarity. Lisa's reaction was immediate and defensive. She accused me of being insensitive and paranoid, dismissing my concerns as ridiculous. She insisted that David was my son, that there was no reason to doubt her. Her defensiveness only fueled my suspicions. I knew I needed concrete proof, one way or another. I decided to order a paternity test online, a decision I knew would have significant consequences, regardless of the outcome. A few weeks later, the results arrived. My heart pounded in my chest as I tore open the envelope. The results were conclusive. I was not David's father. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The floor dropped out from under me. I felt a mix of devastation, betrayal, and anger, emotions swirling within me like a destructive tornado. I confronted Lisa with the results, the undeniable proof of her infidelity. She finally broke down, confessing to a brief affair with a colleague several months before she became pregnant. She begged for forgiveness, pleading with me to stay, to work things out. Despite the immense pain and betrayal I felt, I couldn't bring myself to abandon David. He was innocent in all of this, a child who deserved love and a stable home. I agreed to stay, but under the condition that Lisa would be completely transparent about the affair and commit to rebuilding our relationship. The following months were a blur of therapy sessions, difficult conversations, and emotional turmoil. We slowly started to piece our lives back together, the fragile foundation of our relationship rebuilt on a bedrock of honesty and forgiveness. It was a long and arduous process, but we were committed to making it work, for ourselves and for David. It's a small price to pay for peace of mind and the absolute certainty that you're not investing your time, emotions, and resources into raising a child who doesn't share your biological lineage. I learned this lesson the hard way, a lesson etched into my soul with the bitter ink of betrayal and heartbreak. It's a lesson I wouldn't wish on anyone, and it's a lesson I hope to spare others by sharing my story. Life has moved on, though the echoes of that painful period still reverberate within me. The sharp edges of grief have softened with time, but the memory remains, a poignant reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of deception. I've met someone new, a woman whose kindness and integrity shine like a beacon. She understands the shadows of my past, offering not judgment, but empathy and unwavering support. We're building a life together, brick by brick, a life founded on the solid ground of honesty, transparency, and unwavering mutual respect. Lisa and David haven't faded from my memory. They occupy a quiet corner of my heart, a space reserved for what could have been, for the dreams that shattered like glass on a cold, hard floor. The pain has lessened, replaced by a melancholic acceptance of the path not taken. I hold no animosity towards them, only a lingering sadness for the loss of what I once believed was my future. The phantom pangs of what if still occasionally surface. What if Lisa hadn't betrayed my trust? What if David was my son? What if we had built the family I so desperately yearned for? But I've learned that dwelling on these hypotheticals is a fruitless exercise, a self-inflicted wound that hinders healing. I choose instead to focus on the present, on the tangible blessings in my life, on the love and support that surrounds me. I'm immensely grateful for the hard-won wisdom gleaned from the wreckage of my past. The experience, though excruciating, has forged me into a stronger, more resilient man, a man who appreciates the true value of genuine love, unwavering loyalty, and the priceless gift of unbreakable trust. The naive, trusting man I was 5 years ago is gone, replaced by someone more cautious, more discerning, more vigilant in protecting his heart. I've learned to recognize red flags, to listen to my intuition, and to value actions over words. The experience has taught me that love, while powerful, is not sufficient on its own. It requires the sturdy scaffolding of trust, the unwavering commitment to honesty, and the open channels of clear, consistent communication. Without these vital components, love becomes a fragile thing, easily shattered by the storms of life. Perhaps the most valuable lesson I've learned is the importance of self-care, of nurturing my own emotional well-being. I understand now the necessity of establishing healthy boundaries, of saying no without guilt or hesitation, and of cultivating a supportive network of friends and family who uplift and inspire me. My healing journey continues, an ongoing process of self-discovery and growth. I'm learning, evolving, and embracing the continuous unfolding of my life. I face the future with cautious optimism, knowing that life is unpredictable, but also knowing that I have the strength and resilience to navigate whatever challenges may arise. And maybe, just maybe, one day our paths will cross again. David and I'll buy him that beer, and we'll share a conversation, to men bound by a complex and unusual history, a history that indelibly shaped us both. Perhaps we'll find common ground, a shared understanding, a sense of peace in the acknowledgement of our intertwined past. Until then, I will continue to live my life with intention, with gratitude for the present, and with the unwavering belief that the brightest chapters of my story are still waiting to be written. I will embrace the unknown, knowing that even in the darkest of times, hope remains, a flickering flame that can guide us towards a brighter tomorrow.